So 3, 2, 1. Hey everyone, Harry Welchel here. Today I have one of my clients, actually a consulting client of mine, named Bryce. But we're here to talk about something that's related to art actually today. So we're going to talk about how Bryce helped his relatives sell $5,300 in sculptures just this weekend. So Bryce, why don't I turn it over to you? Why don't you just introduce yourself a little bit, give everybody a little bit of your background, but then also share a little bit about your relatives, their artwork, and what sort of work that they do.
Yeah. So my name is Bryce. My regular business is more of an accounting firm, and I have a coaching program around helping accountants build six-figure accounting firms. It's been a pretty good run, and I really love that kind of work. But my relatives invite me to do art fairs and art different shows and help them get their sales going. Sometimes on like weekends, every once in a while inside of the summer. Have basically three things going on right now. I'm super excited.
Nice, man. That's awesome. So tell us all a little bit more about the artwork. What sort of artwork do they do?
Yeah, so they do more of just metal sculptures, generally like steel, aluminum, and they're just different types of metals. They're generally anywhere between a tabletop to these 90-pound sculptures that are like 6 feet tall.
Very cool. And what sort of collectors typically buy it, and where do they have them? Do they have them outside, indoors? Tell us a bit more about that.
So there's a couple of different ways or different places, different locations, because we do have pieces, the bigger pieces can go inside and outside. We've had people where it's like they just buy just a piece just to put in their like 18-acre field, just in the middle of the field. We have some people that it's the centerpiece in their house, or they put it on their dining room table. So just a large range of what uses they get out of them.
Interesting, man. Very cool. So yeah, so for those who are just figuring this out, basically Bryce and I have been working together on his accounting practice and helping him with his sales, his marketing for that. But then he's basically been able to take some of those skills and those learnings and just help his relatives with their artwork. So why don't you just talk a little bit more about that? Like how have they typically sold artwork in the past? Have you been involved in helping them for a while? And what sort of channel? Is it typically these art fairs that you mentioned?
Yeah, so as many people know, like a lot of artists were hurt during COVID times. Like, they would go to the fairs and all the fairs kind of stopped during COVID because, we couldn't go and meet. So there was a lot of, unrest about how to either get things going on the internet or how to go and take the people who were coming to those art fairs, keep that relationship going and have them, buy your artwork during the pandemic. So all you do is just go drive it to them or ship it to them. But you had to learn how to utilize the internet. So one thing that we started doing was I started using what Harry was talking about in, some of our consulting programs that we've done together, like how to go and identify who's a collector, how to go and identify what's the way to bridge that gap and like talk to them. And that was the biggest struggle for my relatives. It was like, how can we go and find people when we can't go to an art fair because everything is like shut down? And that's where I was like, hey, if you want, maybe I can start helping you guys sell this stuff.
Got it. And so, but yeah. This was an actual offline fair this weekend that you went to, right?
Correct.
So are those picking back up?
Yeah, so it was a mix. It was actually a mixture of both because we actually sold an extra $3,000 after the fair. So it was like we sold $5,300 on Sunday. And then from somebody from a previous fair, I was like, hey, we just sold a bunch of pieces. We only have this one left. Do you want this? The person was like, can we do a quick call? I showed them the piece the same way I did the art fair. And the person said, hey, let's buy this thing.
So it was actually $8,300 in sales recently.
In 2 days.
Good for you. Good for you. Well, that's awesome. And so why don't you just kind of walk us through the weekend a little bit, just share a little bit. You don't have to go through every single detail, but what was the fair like? Tell us about the buyers. How did you guys get connected?
So the fair was pretty bad in the beginning.
What do you mean?
The first day, it was like a Saturday and Sunday kind of fair. Saturday, it rained Friday, it rained almost the whole evening, and that's when you generally set up the tent and get everything going. Saturday morning, we come to the tent. Our next door tent person, her tent was in a tree because there was a tornado that ran through the road that the fair was on. Our stuff was good, but Her stuff was in a tree.
Well, if you've got weighted, sculptures, it probably takes a lot of force to lift something. Hopefully.
It's one of those things, man. Like when a tornado comes through, tornadoes take up cars. So,
Fair enough. Yeah, good point.
so like we came in there and our piece was good, but that Saturday there was not a lot of traffic, which is really hard when it comes to fairs, which is also why we're working with you. Sunday was really good because the people started coming out. It was sunny. It was really good all day long. We had pretty good traffic. Just simple conversation where it's like, hey, you like this thing? What do you like about it? Where would you put it?
Do you feel like the communication skills that you and I work on in terms of doing things online, chatting in Facebook Messenger, things like that, were you basically being able to apply those same techniques at the fair with these conversations?
Yeah, I mean, the reason why your stuff works so well is because it's almost like you're taking an in-person conversation and just putting it on a computer. So it's like literally the exact same thing.
Yeah. So this is just the other way. It's like now you're just going back offline and like using the same principles, but talking to people at the fair.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So yeah, go ahead. Tell me more about like, were there multiple sales or was just one sale for 5,300 at the event?
It was multiple sales. So we have different size pieces, so different price points. So generally we have like a 500 price range, a 900 price range, 2,300, and then we're going to start expanding it to more like the $5,000. Mm-hmm. It's just Very cool. Multiple different sales.
And were there any interesting like anecdotes or like surprises or anything from the people that ended up buying? Did anybody surprise you or?
It's one of those things where you can't tell who has money.
That's true. Sometimes it's very hard to tell.
Yeah, and then it's very similar to what you talk about inside of your programs, where the sales, you cannot take anything personally. Don't try and push people too far, because we have people where they'll be super interested, they'll be touching everything, they'll be wanting to buy. You say the price, they're like, oh, and they're hemming and hawing, then they walk away. And most people make the mistake of pressuring them, and then you never get the sale. If you just let them walk away, then they come back.
So did you see that happen where basically people came and they like had like almost like a learning phase at your booth, and then they like came back and they like had a closing phase?
I think some people more wanted to buy it on their way back to their car because the pieces were so heavy.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like they like want to see the whole fair, and then if they still like your piece and there's something else, then they like get it on their way out, so they don't have to schlep it around.
Yeah. In the 80-degree heat.
That makes sense. Well, so it sounds like you've been helping out not only with this art fair, but also just like general like handling inquiries online too. Are there any other like interesting kind of like takeaways or parallels where you've seen like, oh, the same thing that I've been doing with my art accounting practice that Harry's taught me, and like how it's been a parallel and applied to selling the art? Any interesting insights there?
Yeah, as far as like the content strategy that we worked on in the consulting and with some of your other artist students, like just me being able to kind of see what people are doing, we're going to be executing on that probably in the next like 2 weeks, and then we can really utilize everything you taught me on the art phase and really just blast it off online.
Nice. So you're kind of got the foundations in place for some of the online lead generation techniques, and you're going to be testing some of that out.
Yeah, because the pricing that we've seen, like when you utilize what Harry talks about, it's so much easier to raise your price online as well. Only because like it's not like they're comparison shopping. So that's the one thing I'm really excited to be able to utilize more of, is just raising my price because of the stuff we talked about inside the program.
Yep. Yeah. So have you done anything with like social proof, any interviews and stuff for the art practice?
We not in the typical way. No, like we have like user sent in photos and like taking photos with the people. But we have not done the interviews, the social proof stuff we talk about yet.
Well, that'll be probably some low-hanging fruit that you guys can explore doing as well. Well, that's awesome, man. Well, any other interesting like takeaways or insights from these recent wins? I mean, $8,300 in 2 days, that's not too shabby.
Yeah. Price isn't real. That's one thing.
What do you mean by that?
Meaning that the price that you're starting out with and you're trying to sell it with is generally lower than what the market is willing to pay.
Yeah, so you're basically
Especially,
talking about like it's so psychological and that like you can probably charge more than you think.
well, yeah, I mean, because like the people who buy it, when you start pricing it higher, it's like they ask less questions. They just walk up to you and they're like, "Hey, how much is it?" Because we don't put our prices on the actual pieces. You say the price and they just whip it out in cash. And that was a really big eye opener to me that people just walk around with like 4 grand, 5 grand worth of cash in their pockets.
Well, they probably don't do that normally, but if they do that at an art fair,
That's what I'm saying. So when
even
they're
at an art
coming and they're
fair.
thinking about art, it's like if we had set our price at 2 grand, thinking, "Oh, this is expensive," we would have missed out on a lot of sales. So it's like you can price it more than what you expect because the people who are going to buy your stuff
Are prepared.
spend money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. That's interesting, man. Well, cool. Well, yeah, like I mean, you are again, you're one of my consulting clients. You're not technically one of my artist clients, but like, let me ask you this: like, do you feel like you'd recommend me to other artists, and if so, like, what sort of artists do you think I'm a good fit for?
Yeah, I would recommend you to other artists. I have actually recommended you to other artists. Who would be a good fit? Can you explain a little bit more, like a specific style or?
Yeah, so less. I think I'm thinking personally less in terms of style, but more about like in terms of what are their goals for their art practice, what level they're at in terms of the business side of things in your mind.
Okay. I mean, I think you can help out, both the beginner, intermediate. I'm not advanced, so I wouldn't know. You do have a lot of artists that are doing really, really well right now. So I think you can help people. If someone needs some structure, maybe they've been trying to sell it at these different art fairs, or maybe they've been trying to sell it online, but they just don't know what to do, or they don't have a structure in place. They should generally come to you because you just say, "Hey, do this, do this, do this. Do not do all this stuff that's going to waste your time, so you can focus just on your art and creation," and you just sell
And the
it.
sales skills, right? Yeah,
Exactly.
got it. No, I love
Does
it.
that
I
answer
love
your
it.
question?
No, I think it does. I think it does. I think you're right. Like, I always like to say, like, I think if somebody has at least sold like one or two pieces, and it doesn't even have to have been at like a crazy high price point, but they've sold some pieces and they're just really like committed to growing and growing their art practice. Doesn't mean they have to be full time. They could be part time, but they just have to be committed and dedicated to their art practice. And that typically means like lots of professionals. I work with a ton of those folks, but then also like I would call them rookies, people that are getting started but are
Yeah.
serious about it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. If
And
if they want to make money, then they should come to you. If they're just having fun,
exactly.
I don't know.
No, it's fun. It's funny you say that. But yeah, there's a lot of artists out there that are just doing it for a passion, and that's so great. Like that's awesome. But it's like we're all about basically not only like doing it as a passion, but also monetizing it, making a living, making an income. And it's like you gotta want to do that because otherwise, it's just I can't help you. Like that's the thing I help you with.
Yeah, because like the stuff that you show, like I mean, it's gonna help out my relatives so much because like the ability for them to be able to just say, "I'm going to do this, this, and this," and if I just follow it correctly, and the same way that you lay out in your program step by step, I don't have to worry about money in the same way that I used to, like they don't have to worry about money. It's like it's just
They can
so
make their
like
art practice predictable.
exactly, yeah.
That's awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. I'm so glad to hear that. So, like, why should someone who's listening to this take action right now?
Um, the amount of time that you're going to lose and the frustration that you'll go through if you try and figure it all out yourself when you've never run a business or you've never sold things and you're just used to just creating stuff, you might as well just pay the money so you can start making the money back almost like relatively immediately for a lot of the people joining the program now. It's just money. You're going to get more of it. Just spend it, get the skills, build your art practice. That's why you should do it now.
Yep. Yeah. So it's very different. Like what you're saying is like it's most purchases we buy. If we buy something like a new motorcycle or a new guitar, like behind you, like it's just money going out. It doesn't come back around.
Yeah.
And what you're basically saying is like you're investing in yourself, and like that those funds will come back around. And so it's
Yeah.
It's a more rational thing to do, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Is that
because
kind of what you're saying?
yeah, because when I first started, I was so scared to invest money to work with you
I
because
remember
I
you were
was
like
just,
really nervous on the call.
dude, I was freezing up because it was like, it wasn't about how much money it was. It was just the fact that it was like, am I going to be able to get this money back? Because I've been trying so hard and I don't know. But then looking back, it was like the only reason I was able to really sell the $8,300 in 2 days was because of I joined
The
this program
investments that
with
you made
this
in
guy.
yourself.
Yeah, I joined this program with you. You showed me how to talk to motherfucker. Sorry, to people.
That's all right. That's all right.
I mean,
An adult audience.
and it's like you also showed me the money doesn't stop. So I mean, I've collected more than six figures since we started working together, and
I see what you're saying. Yeah, like that's another thing people think about. Think about like money as like something that like it's just static in some place, but it's actually more this like flow. It's like a river, and it's moving around the economy, and it's like you basically learn how to like wade deeper into the river and like capture more of the wake. But then you go ahead and spend it on other stuff. You invest it in hiring people or more art supplies or advertising. So it's like it's just you're like basically getting deeper into the flow of the river, if that makes sense.
yeah,
I like that.
yeah,
I like that image.
that's it. Yeah, does that fully answer your question?
Yeah, it does. And so let me ask you this too, like what would be your number one piece of advice for artists out there right now?
Um, get structure so you can sell your art for more money.
Yeah, get structure so you can sell your art for more money. Yep. Yeah, get organized, get systematic, and then that'll help you make more. Yeah, that's good. I like that. That makes a lot of sense to me. So cool. So if, like, what's next for you and your relatives? Like, what do you have planned to help them grow their art practice the next, 2-3 months?
Next goal will be 10K per month. This is our second show. First show we did about 5. This grand we did about 8. Next grand I'd like to do about 10 to 12. That's just going to be from us like just raising our price again.
Okay. Excellent. Well, awesome, man. This is so great to catch up. I appreciate you taking the time to like record this, but I just thought you shared that win in the group and I was like, what? Like Bryce is working with accountants. How is he selling art? I gotta hear more about this and capture this and so we can share that with our audience. Well, thanks so much. We'll talk soon.
Excellent. Talk to you soon. Thanks.
All right. Bye.
Bye.